6 minutes. That's how long you have to decide after the first missile was launched. Who, why, and what now? In Annie Jacobsen's book titled Nuclear War, she paints a kind of vivid picture of a scenario that most of us know is possible, but would rather ignore. The book challenges us, for a moment anyway, not to ignore this potential reality, but to actually imagine it in graphic, minute-by-minute detail. But who is Annie Jacobsen, and why should we listen to her? So Jacobsen is an American investigative journalist and author who was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize, and she's best known for her kind of deep dives into military history and government secrets, and with a background in both journalism and investigative research, Jacobsen has established herself as a trusted voice on topics like clandestine government operations, advanced military technology, and intelligence agency activities. Now, obviously, this book is fictional, right? It paints a picture of a world where nuclear missiles have been launched at America. And so it's a fictional scenario dreamt up by Jacobsen, but it's been constructed after hours of exclusive interviews with people that are positioned in different levels of the government, from those who create the weapons to those who influence the decisions, people that work with FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security, as well as information which has been recently declassified. So although what you're reading in this book is fiction, it's fiction which is based on fact. In Jacobsen's imagined situation, it's North Korea that launches a missile at a nuclear reactor in California. And the reason that they've done this is unknown at the point where we begin the book, but what's suspected is like a kind of mad king theory. And this is where a world leader just completely loses touch with reality and any sense of consequence and becomes completely irrational. If you combine this with a nuclear arsenal and totally unchecked power, then we see how the world now sits in the hands of an emotionally and mentally fragile person. If you spread this kind of idea, this mad king theory, out across the whole world and all of the countries that have a nuclear arsenal, and that you now start to see how precarious a situation we are in. Because if a nuclear war begins, there's no scenario in which it ends without the world as we know it ending along with it. Or as the saying goes, the only winning move is not to play.
Strange game. The only winning move is not to play.
There's no winners in a nuclear war. There's only differing degrees of losers, and there's only who gets to reap the most retribution. That's it. That's what we're playing for. So after the immediate launch, the book takes us into the chaos of the Oval Office, where different branches and agencies all have different priorities. It's just complete madness. You've got the Secret Service that need to evacuate the president, while others need the president to stay and answer their questions on which protocol to follow. The president in this scenario is the only person on the planet that can make these decisions. Nobody else. So then they all start to ask themselves questions. Is it really true that they've launched an unprovoked attack? Why would they do that? Could our systems have been hacked and given us false information? Okay, now there's 4 minutes left. If we attack, then American missiles will have to pass over Russian airspace, but we need to inform them first, and they're not responding. 3 minutes left. We need to get the president to safety now. 2 minutes left. Russia's on the phone. Russia, listen, our missiles will pass over you, but we just need you to know that they're not aimed at you. You need to trust us.
We need to trust you.
Yes. Can we trust you? This is how the scenario begins. And what follows is a detailed minute-by-minute account of the most likely responses that people would be making, what protocol they're following, and what happens to the people on the ground when the first weapons make impact. And we watch as, over the next 72 minutes, the world ends in slow motion. There's a particularly horrifying scene that happens in a baseball stadium, if you can imagine. One of the most terrifying things that I learned about in this book was the dead hand policy in Russia. And the dead hand policy, also known as perimeter, is like this Cold War era automatic nuclear weapons control system that was developed by the Soviet Union and remains in Russia's military strategy today. This system is designed to ensure a retaliatory nuclear strike in the event that the country's command structure is incapacitated or destroyed in a first strike attack. So if America or England aim at the core of Russia, here's how it would work. If certain sensors detect signs of a nuclear strike on Russian territory, such as seismic activity, increased radiation levels, or other indicators of a nuclear explosion, the perimeter system would be activated. Once activated, the system checks for the status of the leadership command centers, and if it determines that these centers are no longer operational and there's no human input there to cancel the process, the system then proceeds to the next step. And what is the next step? Russia fires everything that it has to predetermined targets all around the world. The dead hand system serves as a deterrent by guaranteeing that any nuclear attack on Russia would result in a devastating counterstrike, even if the country's leadership and command infrastructure are totally wiped out. So this means that New York, London, Paris, Berlin, gone. This is Russia's way of telling everyone, don't think about it. It is the ultimate deterrent. And deterrence is what is supposed to keep us safe, the fear of one another. All right, we're not going to do anything. Are you going to do anything? We're not going to do anything. But in this scenario, that kind of deterrence is totally undermined when you give a madman 100% of the power. So really, this book is a story of what happens when deterrence fails. Thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I know it was a bit of a heavy one. I usually focus more on fiction, but I read this recently and, I just wanted to talk about it. If you'd like to see my review of something else, something a bit more fiction-based, then you can click up here where I talk about Moby Dick. Anyway, I really appreciate you watching. Happy reading. We'll be all right. We'll be all right.